An 80-year-old lady is kicked out of a store, but everyone regrets it when they find out who she is. Hello, welcome, like, subscribe, and activate notifications on the Special Stories channel. Get out of here. This place is for people who can afford to buy, not for people like you. These words came from an elegant, refined lady to a poorly dressed young man with unkempt hair and an unpleasant smell. Ma'am, I know I'm not in the best condition, but I managed to save up some money to buy the blouse on sale in the shop window. If I dress nicely, maybe I can find a job, said the young man humbly. But even those words didn't touch the lady's heart. The young man was at the entrance of the clothing store when the lady called some security guards who removed him from the front of the store. The young man left peacefully with a red face filled with shame and sadness. The lady watched him go to the end of the block to make sure he wouldn't come back. She was satisfied because that man could bother other customers. The elegant but cruel lady's name was Morgana. She owned not only that store, but several others scattered throughout the city, including clothing stores, beauty salons, and aesthetic clinics. Morgana left the store and got into her private car with her driver. "Take me to the hospital. I have a horrible headache from all the stress I've had today," Morgana told the driver, who immediately rushed to the hospital. Morgana was quickly attended to, given some medications, and underwent some tests. The results of the tests would only be available after a few days. Morgana was stressed. The situation with the guy who wanted to enter her store had left her angry. She asked her driver to drop her off at a jewelry store and dismissed him, saying she would call him back when she was done. Morgana bought a ring worth $10,000, but for her, it wasn't much. The feeling of putting something so expensive and beautiful on her finger made her happy and excited. Morgana left the store and looked for her phone to call her driver, but she had left it in the car. With no other option, the elegant lady looked for a taxi, but none appeared. Morgana started walking and searching in other streets, and without realizing it, she entered a deserted area. She started walking faster, but a man quickly grabbed her purse and the ring she had just bought. She screamed, but no one appeared to help her. To make matters worse, Morgana fell to the ground and got all dirty with mud. Her previously impeccable hair was now disheveled. The man had disappeared from her sight, and Morgana was still on the ground, crying and without anyone's help. After composing herself, she went to a more crowded area and asked for help from some people passing by, but they all looked away. She couldn't understand why she was being denied help, as she had always been treated well by everyone due to her status. Morgana just wanted to make a call to her driver to pick her up, but everyone refused until they looked into her eyes. She then silently cried and walked slowly towards the store where she had bought the ring. On the way, she looked at her reflection in a shop window and finally realized her condition. She looked like a homeless person, despite her designer clothes being all dirty with mud and her hair in the worst possible state. This made her understand why no one was talking to her. A young woman passing by saw her crying and asked if she needed help. When Morgana explained everything to the kind woman, she lent her the phone, and finally, Morgana was able to call her driver. First, she went home to take a shower and get dressed before going to the police station later that night. The feeling of being disregarded still lingered inside her. She had always been treated well, but a simple change in her appearance had made her feel ignored. This feeling persisted for days, and it was even worse than losing her purse and the luxury ring she had bought. As for her, that amount was insignificant. The day of her follow-up appointment with the doctor arrived, and Morgana went for her consultation. The doctor looked quite serious, but he couldn't hide the truth. Morgana had an aneurysm that required surgery, but due to her age, the surgery was risky. She was torn between two options. If she chose not to have the surgery, she could lose her life at any moment. If she underwent the surgery, she also risked not surviving. This shook her deeply, and she left the hospital unsure of what to do. Her driver noticed her silently crying in the back of the car, but he didn't say anything because he knew Morgana's reputation for firing employees over minor issues. However, she continued to cry in silence, and the driver eventually told her about a place he liked to go to relax when he had problems. Morgana agreed to go there, and it was a rocky formation that extended into the sea, with a soothing breeze and a beautiful view. Morgana reflected on everything that had happened in the past few days. She had been mistreated because of her appearance, but she remembered how she had treated a young man poorly recently. She had never married or had children, and if she passed away, everything she had built would be lost. She would have to pass on her businesses to someone else, but she didn't trust anyone to manage them while she recovered, in case she didn't wake up from the surgery. Back at home, Morgana decided to do something about it. She went to her housekeeper, who she knew also made clothes on commission, and asked her to make some special outfits for her. She promised to pay her well, and the housekeeper agreed, listening to Morgana's requests. The housekeeper didn't understand why Morgana wanted these clothes, but the next day, they were already made. Morgana thanked her profusely and paid her handsomely. Then, she put on the clothes and went to her driver, who was speechless. Just as he was about to say something, Morgana told him he would understand everything later. She was dressed in dirty, torn clothes, with her hair disheveled to the point of being unrecognizable. Her first stop was a cosmetic clinic, which was one of the first businesses she had started. Morgana decided to enter the salon just to ask for a glass of water, but one of the attendants immediately called security, telling her that the place was not for her and she should leave. The manager appeared and ordered her to be escorted out. Morgana tried to explain that she only wanted a glass of water, but they refused to even provide her with that. Disappointed, Morgana left the salon and went back to her car, feeling upset. Her driver noticed her distress and asked if she wanted to go to another one of her businesses. Morgana nodded, and he drove her to another one of her establishments, a prestigious beauty salon in the city. Morgana entered the salon again wearing the same dirty and torn clothes, but this time she had a bag full of money with her. As she approached the counter, all eyes were on her. She asked for her hair to be done and showed the attendant the money, indicating that she could pay for the services. The attendant found the situation strange and called the salon manager. When the manager saw Morgana, she greeted her politely and asked her to wait for a moment so she could be attended to. Morgana smiled, thinking that she might have found someone worthy to work for her. While she waited, Morgana noticed the manager and the attendant whispering to each other, and then the attendant made a call, dialing only 3 numbers. Morgana, realizing the situation, hurriedly left the store and asked her driver to leave immediately. The driver asked what had happened, and Morgana explained that someone might have found it suspicious for a person dressed like her with so much money and likely called the police. She had only dialed 3 numbers, and they probably thought she was calling 911. The driver asked how she had noticed that so quickly. Morgana sadly replied that it was something the person she used to be would have done. As Morgana and her driver passed by several of her businesses, she was not well received at any of them. There was only one place left to go. Morgana stood in front of a clothing store, feeling disheartened, but decided to go in. As she entered, another person entered with her. It was the same young man she had kicked out before due to his appearance, but he didn't recognize her. She stood at the entrance and watched his every move. He was still wearing the same clothes as that day. The manager approached him. Lucas, the manager greeted, shaking the young man's hand. His name was Raphael. Morgana realized that this wasn't the first time he had been there. She listened attentively to their conversation. Lucas mentioned the shirt Raphael had bought there before, and Raphael replied that it had fit perfectly. But now he had saved up some more money and could buy a pair of pants and shoes so he could finally look presentable for a job interview. "People never let me into stores because of my appearance," Raphael said. "I was even kicked out of another store by a mean and rude lady. You guys are the only ones who have treated me well." "It must have been a horrible situation," Lucas sympathized. "But if you're looking for a job, maybe we can help. I can get you a position in stock replenishment. The pay isn't great, but it can help you." Raphael's eyes lit up, and he almost cried as he accepted the offer with gratitude. He tried to hug Lucas in his excitement, but then realized that he was dirty and unkempt, so he took a step back. Lucas reassured him that it was not a problem and hugged him instead, telling him to come back tomorrow to start work. Raphael left the store without even buying the clothes he had planned to get. Lucas then noticed Morgana standing there and went to assist her. Despite Morgana's appearance, Lucas treated her very well, showing her some affordable clothes from the clearance section. Morgana picked out 2 items and said she would take them to the cashier. She was also well treated at the checkout, and the security guard held the door open for her, wishing her a great day. Before leaving, Morgana approached Raphael, who was sitting on a bench eating a snack. Before she could say anything, Raphael saw her appearance and thought she might be hungry, so he offered her a piece of his food. Morgana thanked him but declined. She handed him the bag with the clothes she had bought and said it was a gift. Then she left and went to her car. When Raphael opened the bag, he found a pair of pants and a pair of shoes inside. Raphael was surprised and looked around to thank the woman who had given him the gift, but she had disappeared with the present. He decided to return to the store the next day dressed in his best clothes to work. When Morgana came to the store the next day, dressed in her usual jewelry and designer clothes, Lucas, the store owner, approached her and offered to assist her with anything she needed. Morgana said she wanted to inspect the stock as part of a routine check. Raphael, who was already working, saw Morgana and felt a chill down his spine, feeling paralyzed with the thought that she might expel him as she had done before. However, Morgana looked at Raphael and expressed her high expectations of him, commending his hard work and stating that he would surely climb the ranks in her company. She also complimented his outfit, saying it looked perfect on him. Raphael was confused but happy to have a job and not be expelled. Days later, Morgana held a meeting with all her managers and explained her health situation. She stated that some managers would be let go as they were not aligned with the new mindset of her business. Finally, she announced that Lucas would be her successor and would manage all her stores. Lucas thanked her nervously and took a seat, while Morgana praised his effort, excellent service, and outstanding resume as the reasons for her choice. Morgana was finally able to undergo her risky surgery, feeling nervous and afraid of not waking up. She reflected on her life as she entered the operating room, remembering her childhood running through the fields, her first love, and her first disappointment. She dreamed of her entire life and then everything went dark. "Stay calm, it's all over. It was successful. Try to rest," the doctor reassured her.